Trailer Park Boys is one of the most hilarious low-budget sitcoms that I have ever seen. But for something that on the surface looks dumb,
peanut butter and jam!
Trashy,
Ricky! Ricky! That's willful destruction of garbage! Ricky!
or just downright crazy,
What the fuck happened?
Trailer Park Boys surprisingly manages to still appeal to me, even if from the outside it doesn't look at all visually appealing. So how does a show like this work when even the creator knows that it's crazy?
We're really an anti-TV show, and the more we do cameos, the more we do Christmas specials, award shows and all that kind of stuff, the more we become more of a mainstream TV show. And we never started out that way. It was always anti-TV, indie television, just some laughs, some crazy characters, no production value. Here it is. We had fun doing it. We enjoy it. Hopefully you will.
Trailer Park Boys tries to stand out from other shows because it's an anti-television show, which is why it doesn't care about looking like it's professionally made, because that's exactly part of the show's charm.
The more we start to look like a polished TV show and do cameos and specials and all that stuff, the more it turns into the mainstream.
This isn't to say none of it's created poorly, when in reality, it takes a level of intelligence to make such dumb humor funny. And I think that's why there's so many compilation videos that are still being watched today, despite the show being released back in 2001, because ignoring the lack of production value, at a fundamental level, the comedy still works.
What's an aptitude test?
Suitability test, Ricky.
I'll wear a suit if I have to, I don't care. I'll be here.
So while it looks terribly filmed or maybe even badly acted, the point of the show is to look trashy and importantly, laugh at the trashy lifestyle you're seeing. And it's amazing to see how far the creators have used this idea from the show's early days with short films that also worked on making you laugh in this way. Which also still works even in a modern setting. But ultimately, what holds the show together are its characters, which really is a staple of any great sitcom, because that's a large part of what makes me want to rewatch it over and over again to see what they'll get up to. And when I think of which characters make me want to watch the show, there's really only 4 main ones that come to mind. J-Roc?
But I understand it's also bittersweet for you.
Hey, let me get something straight, dog. Straighter than them big, long getaway sticks.
Bubbles?
Let's keep her.
Jim Leahy?
Julian.
I don't know where I felt like I get a little drink around here, do you, bud?
And of course, Ricky.
I thought your name was Randy Leahy.
Oh, Leahy's her mother's maiden name.
Her maiden name?
Yeah,
Her maiden name.
that's what I said.
Ricky is an icon of this show, and almost every line of dialogue that he has reminds me of a Homer Simpson-like stature, where everything he says is smart, dumb comedy.
Just remember, Leahy, what comes around is all around. Don't you mean what's all around comes around, Ricky?
From the running gags of him falling over to not being able to pronounce common expressions, Ricky epitomizes everything that makes me love about these characters, which is combining humor with their trashy lifestyles and completely embracing that.
What are you doing using your big school words? Just use normal people words and I'll understand what you're talking about.
But as much as I love Ricky, the most unique character and my favorite has to be J-Roc, whose obsession with African American culture makes him a poster boy for speaking in Ebonics.
Oh my Christ, I'm saying? Talking about Battlestar Galactica, onion ring flux capacitor.
Half the time when I'm watching J-Roc, I don't know if it's scripted or if the director Mike Clattenburg just put the camera on him and let him riff, because some of the lines delivered by him come off so fluently that in my opinion, it's the best performance of the show.
Go, Jamie. What for? Come on. We didn't do that, man. Come on.
I gotta grab my smoke machine. You know what I'm saying?
evidence.
No,
Take
you know what I'm
it.
saying?
Let's
It's
go.
a fire hazard.
Even though there's also a case to be made about throwing random items, as mastered by Ricky. Which brings me to Bubbles, a character who looks nothing like the actor that plays him because he somehow manages to dive into probably playing the most beloved and genuinely good guy on the show.
I'm kind of like the guy that looks out for all the kiddies in the park. Otherwise, there'd be nobody to take care of them.
Bubbles to me not only brings the sense of logic that the show needs, as he almost always finds himself constantly questioning what everyone else around him is doing, especially that of Ricky.
Bumps, we're taking these bins out of here, man. Cops. All right, Ricky. Ricky?
But he also manages to deliver his own sense of humor through being the voice of reason who commentates on the crazy things that happen in some of the funniest ways.
Decent.
And speaking of crazy, that brings me to the final character of Jim Leahy. What Mariah Carey is to music, Jim Leahy is to alcoholism. A man who at one point claimed he was the liquor is not only the main antagonist for the show, but is oddly enough another lovable character in his own right, mainly because of how warm deep down he really is, and how he acknowledges that he is a flawed human being.
I'm sorry, because this park is the most important thing in my life, and it always will be, and so are all of you.
Which ultimately can be said for the rest of the characters, who are all strangely just as genuine at heart as they are also somewhat genuinely crazy. And I say rest of the characters because I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of the entirety of everyone noteworthy in the show, since just like The Simpsons, the show is filled with so many side characters and each have their own hilarious gimmick or idiosyncrasy. From Julian always holding a drink in his hand, even while waking up from his sleep, to Randy's obsession with eating cheeseburgers,
Some kind of tiger attacked me. Ate 7 cheeseburgers.
or to Corey and Trevor giving Smokes whenever Ricky needs it, even after being in a car accident.
So let's go, Smokes.
So while the low budget of the show doesn't always mean the production is great, that's really the charm about Trailer Park Boys, because it's a hilarious outlook on what it's like living in a trailer park, albeit a somewhat crazy one. But what holds the show together throughout this craziness are the hilarious characters, and without them, it just wouldn't be the same. Because as the title of the show promptly reminds us, it's not a sitcom about a place they live in, it's a sitcom about who they are. The Trailer Park Boys.
It's not our problem. Survival of the fitness, boys.
You see them in there, Ricky?
I don't know.
Check out this ladybug, Ricky.
It's not a ladybug, it's a caterpillar.